Hey friends, welcome back to the water. It's been a stressful few weeks for me. Work has been non-stop, and the days that I've had available to get on the water, the weather hasn't cooperated. So it's a really compressed time, and the one way I know how to decompress is to get out there and explore some stuff. So I'm gonna pop out there today and recharge, try to rejuvenate, try to get out of my head, try to stop overthinking, using nature, vitamin N, to do some of that. I also want to take you to a really cool blob of a rock that doesn't look like it should exist, and it's a half-mile offshore. So we're gonna go check that thing out today. All right, let's get on the water. I'm in South Addison, Maine today. And what's interesting about South Addison, Maine? But what's interesting for us is this is a part of the coast that is kind of a blank spot on a lot of people's paddling maps, and we call them charts. A map on the water is a chart, just like a rope on a sailboat is called a line. So this is a blank spot on a lot of people's charts. In their paddling area. A lot of people go about 30 minutes north where I live in Jonesport, or further north along the Bold Coast, or everybody stays a little bit south of here. So I don't really know why many people don't think of paddling here. It's okay with me. It means more isolated paddling for me. What is really cool about this area, and why I took you here today, is there is a goofy blob of rock about a half-mile offshore called the Ladle. And as you look at it from the side, it looks like someone rested a ladle upside down on the ocean. But before that, we're going to go see something else interesting, because also in this area are a couple of sandy beaches, and that's rare for down East Maine, to have these long sandy beaches. A real difference of things to see today. Fall is absolutely gorgeous out here. And we paddle in the summer. When the land heats up, that hot air rises and then sucks all the cold air in from the ocean. And that creates afternoon wind. But in the fall, when it's a little bit cooler, or when it's a lot bit cooler, we don't have the same heating of the land, and then the cold air doesn't get sucked in. So we get these really mild, calm fall days, where we might get a light breeze, but that breeze just persists. It doesn't build. So we've had a lot of those. We're in for that again today, where the report was 5 to 10 knots, and that's just sort of what we've seen here all week. Really blessed here, mid-fall paddling, to have just a sunny day, warm sun on your skin, slight cool breeze, and great conditions for paddling. So we crossed from Cape Split over to Norton Island, passing Eagle Island off to the left here. You can see Norton behind me, and we're headed towards Sheep Island. And if you don't know much about naming islands in Maine, there's a time when it was highly practical. For example, almost every major bay has a bar island, and that's connected at low tide to the mainland via sandbar. Much less common, but a funny story, are thrum caps. I have a couple of different collection of thrum cap islands, and I looked up what a thrum cap was, and it's a 18th century, 19th century hat worn by sailors to keep the cold and the wet and the snow out. And it was knit with all of the thrums, like the leftover pieces of wool that weren't yarn yet. They would weave those ends into the hat and create this like big Muppet, fluffy monster hat. I actually knit a thrum cap for a friend as a bit of a joke, as a bit of a surprise. It was a total pain in the ass. It will probably be the last thrum cap I ever knit, because just the time involved in getting all of those little pieces of yarn and then felting them up so they get all fluffy for a hat that's ridiculously unpractical. I don't know, Ryan, do you even wear that thing? Is that just is that a Halloween costume now? But the reason I'm bringing this up is Sheep Island, or Sheep Islands, as again, almost every large bay in the state of Maine has a sheep island. Farmers used to bring their sheep here in the summer. They used to take them, leave them on the island, because for a couple reasons. There are no natural predators. It's an island, so they can't go anywhere. And it was free food. The sheep would graze. And unlike some other animals, sheep don't need a water source. They can get the water they need from the vegetation they eat. So because of that, we have a collection of sheep islands all across the state, including this one. What a pretty little spot. I believe this is a campsite as well. Sheep Island Preserve. Good access, which is hard to find. Yeah, pretty little spot. A little quieter here on this side. Away from the open ocean. Yeah, there you go, sandy beach. It was really pretty. The sand is really silty, so it's really soft. So particularly when I got out of the water, sinking up to my ankle as I was trying to get out of the boat, while I was still in the water, And then yeah, it's quite soft. So I can imagine at low tide, this is a bit of a silty landing. Looks like there's a little cobble beach up here, which might be a little firmer option. It's funny, landings are funny. You know, really the perfect landing in my mind is a pretty small pebble beach that is a low angle. When it gets too bouldery, it gets really gnarly. When it gets really rockweedy, it gets gnarly. And then sand is just a nuisance. It's kind of a pain in the ass. It gets everywhere. Particularly if you're like on a multi-day trip. I have a coach who actively avoids sand landings. I'm looking at you, Nate. Actively avoids sand landings for the nuisance of it. Yeah, it's interesting finding the perfect landing. This little cove I'm passing now here on Sheep, just past that long sandy bit. Yeah, it's a beautiful little pebbly cove. Who knows what it's like at low tide if it's just all rockweed. Top tip when you're launching and landing from sandy beaches is to check your skeg before you get too committed. That sand can really pack up that skeg. You know, if you've got more than one person, it's easy to kind of lift your boat off. But one person, sometimes it can be a little tricky. Before I got in the boat, I just released my skeg to make sure it dropped, and it didn't. And gave it a tug. A lot of people put ropes, little tiny cords on the end of their skeg. If you don't have a hole, drill a tiny hole at the tail of the skeg on the bottom of it, part closest to the water. Little hole, put a cord in there, just to give you something to grab onto and tug onto should you need to. And that definitely saved me today. Just gave it a tug and all that sand came right out. But yeah, top tip, check your skeg. All right, this is a pretty good spot maybe to get out, stretch the legs before I make the crossing to the Ladle. It'll be about a mile crossing from here, and I may not have the option to scramble off easily at the Ladle, so I may be in the boat here for a little bit. So it's a good time to quickly stretch the legs, get a little water, maybe a power bar, replace some batteries so y'all can come along with me, and then continue our trip. Our journey continues. We are rounding the south side of Norton Island. It's a little ledge that sticks out here around Norton Island. We are lining up to make our crossing to the Ladle. So I spoke a little bit earlier about trying to simplify things. When I get really stressed out, I just need to simplify things. I need to find my successes. I need to find the things that I can accomplish. I need to revel in those. I just need to simplify everything. I need to make my goals a little bit smaller on the way to bigger goals. I need to make my expectations things that I can get some wins on. You know, rack up the W's. And as I was thinking about it, you know, I kind of do the same thing, simplifying anyway, when I'm got some time in the boat like now. And I'm going to make use of that time as I make this jump over. And that's to pick one thing I want to focus on in the activity I'm doing. In this case, forward paddling for 20 minutes. And I want to pick one thing that I can focus on and just put my attention there and do that. Which, for those of you who know, bear with me. And for those of you who don't, get ready for a simple explanation. So I want to transfer the power from my blade into my boat. And we do that by, as we catch water with the blade going into the water, I apply pressure on the same side with that foot. I think about transferring the resistance I feel in the paddle blade all the way through my skeletal system and into the boat through foot pegs if you have them. My bulkhead is foamed out, so I've got a flat piece of foam at the end of my bulkhead. Some people have foot pegs. Either way, transferring the pressure that I feel in the paddle blade into my boat. I'm not overly thinking of my other mechanics of my forward stroke. And in doing so, I'm giving myself 20 minutes of practice time to work on leg drive, where I could just sit here and look at the pretty blob of rock in front of me and paddle towards it. But listen, I do that. There are days where I'm just like, I just need to paddle. I can't. There's no more thinking. Thinking's done. Time to paddle. So there are those days. But I try to structure it a little bit more as I'm focused on growth and development in most things. Can I do this in a way that I make the best use of the time? You know, people spend a lot of money on coaching. I'm one of them. And I noticed that a lot of people wait for very structured times to practice things and lose out on almost all the other time they're in the water that they could be focusing. And I think sometimes it's because it's too big, like the stuff to focus on, upright posture and rotation and control hand and blade angle, and it can be too much. And I notice as I'm talking to you, I'm doing a little less leg drive. So back to my leg drive. See, I got that one thing just to come back to. And isn't that how it works with stress too? Like that one story your brain tells you how you're, miserable at something, or you can't get enough done, or I don't know, whatever your story is. There's that thing, and I find that if I can return to my breath, or I can return to a moment of joy, or I can reflect on something in my life that I feel really positive about, I can, in that instance, shift, right? One thing. Coming up on the north tip of the Ladle. Pretty spectacular. This is the bulby bit. This is the upturned bowl side of the Ladle. We'll play around, we'll zip around the Ladle, and we'll get different vantage points, but it is just spectacular. So because I'm going to get close to a hard, rocky thing, and my head is relatively softer, I'm going to put a helmet on. I'm not going to be doing anything insane or crazy, but safety first. I've got a helmet right here, and there's no reason it can't be on my head. So let's switch out to the helmet, just to protect the goods, and then paddle around the Ladle. think I'm done with the helmet. Pop this off and sort myself out and start to get organized for the 3/4 of a mile paddle back to the launch. And I'm gonna dunk anything to the ocean. Back to the launch and then get loaded up and call it a day. Taking some time here at the end of our trip, just thinking about what I set out to do today and why I set out to do it, and sort of what changed along the way. You know, I think the trip turned out as expected. I have a lot of confidence in the healing power of nature and the healing power of the ocean, and I feel invigorated. I feel lit up. All right, friends, home stretch. This is starting to look familiar. Yeah, so I'm gonna squirt around the corner here and see if I feel like dealing with the rockweed, or if it's just gonna be the boat ramp and just get the hell out of there so I'm not in anybody's way. Let's see. Yeah, let's make this happen. Here we go. Another great trip in the books. I've got the boat on the car, gears packed up, I got dry clothes on, and I'm ready to hit the road. But just taking a moment here to kind of reflect on the gift that perspective allowed me to have today. In a couple of ways, right? Perspective, seeing things and having a vision and going after it, but just also perspective to really simplify things. I hope you enjoyed seeing the great places that we went to. I would love to hear about the things that you do to recharge and rejuvenate. What's on your list? Is kayaking one of them? Do you get something else out of kayaking, or is it basket weaving? So as these things evolve, I look forward to building that rapport with you. So do all the things you're supposed to do, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you're wanting to see more of. Let me know what interests you, and we'll start incorporating those things into future videos. But for now, yeah, thanks for joining me, and paddle safe. All right, thanks everybody.